what happens when you take money out of an equation, money that's been a band-aid to problems and has sort of allowed this family to exist in a very superficial atmosphere. What's left? And the only thing inevitably is love. You're lucky if you're able to find your footing in terms of people finding their characters within the first season or the first 2 seasons. And I really feel like looking back at that first season, our cast was so strong right off the bat. These characters were so real and lived in from the very first episode. So I feel like in a way, our lovely cast has set the tone from day one. There is always room for better ideas. There's always room for collaboration. And I think that really adds the personal, sort of intangible magic to the show because everyone has a stake in it.
I'm gonna go grab a drink. But it was so nice to finally meet you.
I spent a lot of time watching clips of the Kardashians and the Olsen twins and Lindsay Lohan.
They're just called the Olsens now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
They don't like that anymore.
It's Mary Kate Olsen,
Mary Kate
Ashley Olsen.
I'm going to respect their wishes. So Mary Kate and Ashley
My
Olsen.
wishes.
Your wishes. And I realized that a socialite kind of carries their handbag over their hand like this. One night I was like, what if there was no handbag? And I just flipped my wrist over and added another wrist to the mix and then just kind of ended up with this pathetic little situation.
I've tried to do it and I can't quite get.
No, nobody can do.
He's a freak.
It can be the most enlightening and even heuristic exercise.
What are you saying?
Catherine gave me a book of words that are not often said. As much as I have tried to master the book, nobody has mastered it more than Catherine in terms of like, what if we said this word instead of this word?
You do realize the baby is crying.
Baby's chamber.
Hey, when I stole my own baby.
I think the first time I did it was kind of by mistake or just goofing around. A few people laughed and it made me happy. So made me happy to say it that way.
That really was a giant step in terms of the eccentricity factor of Moira in the beginning. It really kind of kicked it off in a way.
Yeah, I say most words correctly. Maybe not enchiladas.
I remember, enchiladas. Okay, so I remember a moment when we were doing the enchilada scene, and it was very early in the show.
The enchiladas were my mother's recipe.
I have no experience, so far be it from me to ever sort of tap Catherine on the shoulder and suggest anything. But I do remember in that moment sort of saying like, what if you said enchilada?
Okay, well.
And I remember it being, because there was a moment where I was like, I don't want to tell her what, I don't ever want to.
I love that you thought you couldn't tell me.
But everything is kind of just music to the ears when it rolls off Moira's tongue.
I like it when you're able to draw out a one-syllable word into multiple syllables.
Oh, you must.
Like how,
Just
for
for more
example,
camera
there's
time.
a how.
Do we know how this man expired?
Well, that was totally emotional because I was afraid I'd killed a man.
Right.
We love you both very much.
I think what brings so much joy to me in terms of writing this family is that all of these sort of monumental moments for each of these characters are, to most well-adjusted people, totally everyday things, like saying, I love you. I love you. David finally realizing that he doesn't have to have his guard up when it comes to a relationship, finding someone that really sort of celebrates who he is, was a really nice sort of moment. And I think in terms of the relationship itself, it seemed to sort of unlock a door for the audience as well. Telling this relationship with not a lot of questions asked and really not making a big deal about the fact that it's two men who are falling in love seems to have really affected change in people's homes. Gay people, queer people have been so accustomed to seeing queer love stories met with tragedy that to put out the idea that this love story would be nothing but a love story and that we were not going to show the other side, we were not going to fan the flames of anyone that would question it. There's a safety, I think, for people, and even though it is a projection of our world and a world that I hope we can get to at some point, one that is accepting and a world where love inevitably makes you a better, happier, healthier person, which I think generally is the case for all of us. I think by creating that safe space, it's allowed people to really feel joy and feel seen and the response to it has been completely overwhelming.
I think people just love people who express storylines and relationships that is kind of the polar opposite, creating a world that you would actually want to live in.
We might have been living in a falsely safe state where we didn't acknowledge a lot of negativity. I don't know, there's something been revealed in the last few years, but I think if you do acknowledge the negative, it allows you to really embrace the positive because it's just as strong and it's more powerful ultimately. And it's worth fighting for.
Well, and it's been amazing just in terms of the feedback too, because I've received feedback from both sides of the political spectrum. They've both been overwhelmingly supportive of the show, which to me is always sort of has raised an eyebrow, because I feel like, we're exploring territory that a lot of these people supposedly do not support. All people, I think, at this point are looking for is just a safe place to express how they feel, express why they feel it. So by creating a world where conversations can be had without extreme consequence or fear that you're going to be humiliated or shamed for what you believe, finding that middle ground really allows for change and allows for people to realize that maybe really hard beliefs that they had held before are changeable. And I think in terms of particularly the David Patrick storyline, I've received a lot of feedback from religious-based people who just hadn't had an in to understanding what a gay relationship in this case was about. And by rooting for these characters, they came to understand something that they had never been sort of privy to before. And that kind of change is the change that I think we need to do more of.
He sees you for all that you are.
And the intention of the show was always to, season after season, peel back the layers on who these people are and show why we were telling the story in the first place. And the fact that people seem to sort of fall in love with the show season after season a little bit more is sort of the highest compliment for us. I'm glad that we are ending the show with the same kind of purity that we started it with.
In the Outstanding Comedy Series category are Schitt's Creek.
To be recognized, to get recognition for your show from people that you admire and respect, and it's wonderful. And we've had I would say, a slow build on our show.
Usually shows don't get their first Emmy in the 5th season.
Yeah.
It's truly extraordinary. And for a show this small to get recognized by the Academy, which is sort of the top of the top, it shouldn't be possible. And yet it is. To not just get a nomination, but to get 4 nominations is truly extraordinary.
And at the same time, we think we should win.
Yes, of course.
Harry Shearer, on For Your Consideration, said, well, by the time you've gotten dressed up and you're in a car on the way there, you think, well, I might as well win.
Bottom line, it's always a good feeling when people enjoy your show.
It's good to laugh.